Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Fuel Friday. I'm Hot Rod Bob, and you've got gas, the morning edition. Thanks for tuning in. You are a gasaholic, even though we're going to be talking about nitro today. And nitromethane is a fuel that's heavily oxygenated, or it creates a lot of it, carries its own oxygen, and that helps cars or engines make tons of horsepower. And I'm hoping some of our top fuel friends will be tuning in today, and we can get some straight skinny from them. But let's start out at the beginning. People started experimenting with fuel, nitro, in their cars. And in 1957, NHRA, in their infinite wisdom, thought, oh, this is too dangerous, because nitro, it explodes pretty good. So 1957, NHRA banned nitro in all categories. What was possibly happening back then, and I'm not old enough to know, is guys were slipping a little nitro into the fuel of their stockers and so forth. Good morning, Jay Black and Denny Santos and all those so far watching. So American Hot Rod Association, though, didn't ban it. So AHRA, a competitor to NHRA, kept fuel legal. And a lot of guys started switching over to that. Now, there were fuel dragsters, there were hot roadsters, there were fuel coupes. This led to fuel altereds, basically. Factory experimentals, AFX. Oh, I loved watching those win before they became funny cars. Now, I like funny cars, don't get me wrong. But AFX, that was excitement. These cars really looked like cars. They were real cars. They had altered wheelbases, they ran nitro, they had blowers, they had injection, they pulled the front wheels up in the air, sky high. That was the beginning of funny cars, AFX. Now, it became funny cars, as I said. Independent drag strips, not NHRA sanctioned though, offered venues for racers to run nitromethane. The Smokers Car Club, best known for the fuel and gas championships out of Famoso Raceway, Bakersfield. They had the first U.S. Fuel and Gas Championship in 1959, and Bob Hansen won Top Fuel Eliminator at that time with his A Hot Rod. Interesting. He had a speed of 136 miles an hour. Now, Jimmy Nix also ran Top Gas, switched over to fuel. Jim Johnson, who ran a Dodge Polaris Stocker, who won Beast Stock title in 63. Jim Jazzy Nelson, Dold Martin, pioneered Top Fuel and Funny Car with great chassis work of Morton Cassie and Richard Turner. All right, so we're moving on. NHRA didn't leave that ban in place for very long, and nitro came back. They had to. The racers were demanding it. The spectators were demanding it. Now, I'm looking at a bunch of different information here, but one of the things I'm looking at that strikes me kind of strange is it's listing who had the most NHRA top fuel wins. Now, I'm assuming they're talking about dragsters, but it's hard to say because a lot of these drivers drove both funny cars and dragsters. So, which did they have? They're saying, and I'm assuming this is just dragster because I don't see force listed anywhere here. So this has got to be just strictly on dragsters, and I'm not sure this is accurate, but I'm going to read it off anyway. Someone will definitely correct me, I'm sure. Let's see what we got here. All right, Tony Schumacher, 84 top fuel wins. Larry Dixon, doesn't say senior or junior. I'm imagining it might be junior. 62 wins. Joe Amato, 52. Antron Brown, he's got 50 so far. Doug Coletta at 48. Kenny Bernstein, 39. Now, the thing that strikes me strange, too, is that a lot of these names, for me, as a drag race enthusiast, I'm not an expert by any means, are very familiar to me. And these guys were the stars of Top Fuel racing. And not to see them up on top, and here's the one that strikes me the strangest. Don Garlitz, the Swamp Rat. Big Daddy Don. That's all he's known for, is nitro fuel drag racing. 35 wins. Corey Mack, 34. Gary Selzy, 29. Gary Beck, no relation, but I have met him, 19. Daryl Gwynn, 18. Brandon Bernstein, 18. Spencer Massey, 18. Shirley Muldowney, here's a Top Fuel champion, and it only says she has 18 wins. Scott Coletta, 17. Dick LaHaye, 15. Ormsby, 14. Don Perdome, the Snake. They only have him listed as 14 wins in Top Fuel. Now, he did run funny car as well, but he was a national champion. He was one of the top Nitro racers in the country. It says here he only had 14 wins. Hi, Doreen. How are you doing this morning? Dave Hoover. All right. Eddie Hill, 13. Sean Langdon, 14. Mike Dunn, 12. Mike has been a commentator for NHRA and comes from a Top Fuel family. I mean, his dad still runs the Moon Eyes car. 12 wins. Morgan Lucas, 12. Our friend, Doug Herbert, 10 wins. But he didn't race just NHRA. Connie Coletta, 10 wins. Richie Crampton, 10 wins. Brittany Force, 10. Dell Worsham. See Dell out at Irwindale every once in a while with his junior dragsters and his daughters. 8 wins. Leah Pritchard, 8 wins. Rod Fuller, 7. Billy Torrance, 5. Khalid Al-Baluchi, 4. David Grubnick, 4. Clay Milligan, 3. Bob Vandergriff, 3. Pat Dakin, 2. Terry McMillan, 2. Blake Alexander, 2. Mike Salinas, 2. And Austin Prock, 1. And Danny Santos says these guys are better than any football or baseball players in his book. I agree. But again, I don't follow sports that don't have wheels. So, what can you do? Rapid Robbie Roth is watching us right now. All right, so that's a little bit of intro into Top Fuel. Now, one of the things that happened with Top Fuel is when they figured out it would work, how much do you run? Now, some, like Crispin, have said you can run 100%. Well, you can until the cylinder heads fly off. All right, 100% nitro is tough. What they found was 98% was reasonable. However, NHRA has backed that down currently to 90%. And here's what's happened. They lowered the distance from a quarter mile to 1,000 foot because of the crash that took one of our drivers in qualifying back east. They gave them extra room to stop, figuring slowing them down would work. They backed down the nitro to 90%. What's happened? The cars are going quicker. They're going faster. Speeds now over 330 miles an hour. ETs, 3 seconds. This is an amazingly quick sport. And you can't slow them down to an extent. You can try, but remember, the goal of nitro racing, it's heads up. He who gets, or she, that gets to the finish line first wins. Doesn't matter what your speed is, doesn't matter what your ET is, as long as you get there first. And I've seen a number of races where neither one of the cars were really running all that quick, but the one who got there first wins. But in most cases, you've got to be on the power. Doug Crumbus is saying, love the show. Thank you very much. All right, so what do? They limited it to 500 cubic inches. Now, this is NHRA. 500 cubic inches. Reasonable. But, you know, those engines, although they resemble a Chrysler Hemi, don't use a single Chrysler part. As a matter of fact, some of the teams actually have their own machines in the shop to build their own blocks and cylinder heads. They get about 6 runs on a set of heads. Not very much. And then they junk them and start making new ones. Billet heads, billet blocks, and crankshafts, and so forth. The block is machined from a piece of forged aluminum. It's been press-fitted with ductile iron liners. It has no water passages. I mean, you're not running that long, which adds considerable strength and stiffness, so you don't have these holes in the block for the water to travel through. They got 5 main bearing caps on these motors, with aircraft standard rated steel studs. Cylinder heads are machined from aluminum billets as well, and as such, they too lack water jackets and rely entirely on incoming air-fuel mixture and lubrication from oil for their cooling. Now, Jeff Stillwell, who's going to be watching this shortly, normally does from the UK, has got a Top Fuel basic motor in his Bonneville car. Now, we talk about drag cars, we watch them running, and, if they go 3 seconds, 4 seconds, and stay together, they've done well. The nitromethane fuel will actually help cool the engine down, and Jeff has to run for at least 68, 70 seconds. Now, in that 68 and 70 seconds, which is a lot longer than a drag car, he's going to be traveling over 6 miles. So the nitro doesn't necessarily mean it's just for drag cars. Jeff will be running about an 86, 87% nitro mix on his Bonneville car. Now, the last time he ran Bonneville, he set the record in his class at 258 miles an hour. And you got to think about this too. It's a top fuel motor. It can make the 10,000 horsepower the top fuel cars are making, but he needs to keep it together. The engine has to stay together. It can't blow apart. So you run less nitro. You've got to run it a longer period of time. The nitromethane fuel still makes the horsepower, but it's detuned to about half that of a top fuel dragster. And the goal is keep the engine together. Now, we talked about this with Danny Thompson just a few weeks ago, and he too runs nitromethane in his Bonneville car, and he set the record at over 450 miles an hour in his dad's car that he restored. Ran 2 Hemis, went over 454 miles an hour, and he holds the land speed record for piston-powered cars with the same car his dad set the record with. Of course, the engines have changed. He went from Fords to Hemis, and it stayed together. He's looking to go a little bit quicker next time, trying to put together a team to build another car. All right, the camshaft is steel billet. The crankshafts are cross-plane, a 90-degree configuration. They're running 5 conventional bearing shells. 180-degree crankshafts have been tried, and they offer some increased power, but the 180-degree crankshaft is also about 22 pounds lighter. Interesting. Pistons are made from forged aluminum. Superchargers, they run a 1471, I'm told. Roach type. Huge blowers. I mean, my engine, my car isn't as big as the blower is. I mean, they're just huge. Superchargers were derivatives from General Motors blowers that they used on 2-stroke diesel engines for trucks. And once was commonly a 671 and a 471 blowers were designed for General Motors diesels, having 6 cylinders, about 71 cubic inches worth of supercharge. So there we go there. The oil systems, it's a wet sump. They use oil just like we do. They use a thicker oil because, again, oil's not going to last long in a top fuel car. You change it after each run. It's gone. It's done. All right, performance. First 60 feet, as quick as 0.8 seconds. And they're doing that at over 100 miles an hour before they pass the Christmas tree. Now think about that. So nitromethane, that's great. You'll find the grandstands at Pomona, for example, the track where I go to frequently, will be full during the nitro classes. Me, I like the stockers. I like super stock, stock, pro stock, okay. I like cars that I can see and resemble on the street. That's not to say that I don't like top fuel. When I'm working at the Hot Rod Reunion at Bakersfield, where I don't announce the nitro cars, I'm down on the starting line. I want to be there for it. I also love the Cackle Fest we do, and that is just a blast. And we've had as high as 70 top fuel cars cackling down the track and down the return road at Bakersfield for the Hot Rod Reunion. Hopefully, we get to do that again this October. Hi, Jeff Bertram. How you doing? It's like you, Jeff. I do like the door cars because I can relate to those. And that's where the manufacturers got involved. Win on Sunday, sell on Monday. Both NASCAR, old NASCAR, NHRA, and so forth. The cars were recognizable. And if you saw someone at the drag strip driving a car that you liked, you saw it went fast, it looked cool, chances are you were at the dealership trying to buy one. And you look forward to it. And I did too. I love the 64 Dodges. Dick Landy, the Candy-matics from the Ram Chargers. But that's off the Nitro. Now, though the Ram Chargers did go to Nitro eventually and start running a funny car, or AFX car, and so did our friend Dandy Dick Landy. All right, so there we go with that. Nitro. It's fun. Now, I got some other information for you, too. And let's take a look at that. Let me move this over to the side a little bit because I'm still reading. All right, during World War II is when Nitro started coming to light as a fuel. And who was using it? Well, the Germans. They were using it in the airplanes. Interesting. Also, Vic Edelbrock Jr. started using it in his 1949 midget racer. Ed Haddad came into the shop after being given 1 gallon of nitro-based fuel by slot car manufacturer the Dueling Brothers. But he didn't want any part of it because he heard it would blow up in your face. Well, Edelbrock, Bobby Meeks, and Fran Hernandez added 10% nitro to the methanol they ran on their V860 midget. Yes, with no tuning or familiarity with nitro and running with carburetors. Vic Jr. recalls that the strange brew just about broke the beam on his dad's old 200 horsepower capacity Clayton dyno. So that's how much of an improvement it made. So it's not just for drag racing. Nitro was used in many other types of cars. And did you ever get a model airplane with one of those little single-cylinder motors? Nitro! Now, the spark plugs were also so hot, they turned to glow plugs. Now, I've seen spark plugs after a run. That's another thing they got to change. Spark plugs are gone by the end of a run in a nitro car. The tips are just melted off, burnt off. So they had to come up with something different. Stromberg 81 carburetors had to be nickel-plated, as did the fuel containers hidden from the prying eyes inside the cardboard boxes. Eventually, Vic Edelbrock settled on a 20% nitro, 80% methanol mix, and it added an immediate 40 horsepower. Later in 1949, a secret sauce, Edelbrock's Fran Hernandez 32 Ford beat Tom Cobb's blown Roadster at Goleta. Yes, there was a drag strip in Goleta, California, just north of Santa Barbara. And it was an airport there. It's the first sanctioned drag race ever held, but what really made everyone take notice was Vic Edelbrock Sr.'s circle track midget, driven at the famous Gilmore Stadium in Los Angeles in 1950 by future Indy 500 winner Roger Ward. At that time, the midget racing was a rage in Southern California, and purpose-built Offenhauser four-cylinder engines had a significant power advantage over the other setups that dominated the circuit because the Ford V860 flatheads were relegated to their own little class, and that was a small little V8 that Ford put out. But on the historic night in Gilmore, Edelbrock entered a Curtis Craft V860-powered midget in an Offenhauser class, fueled by his secret brew, and smoked them. It was the only time a V860 won at Gilmore over a field of Offenhausers, which are purpose-built race engines. They had no street counterpart. In San Bernardino the following night, Edelbrock blew off the Offies again. So it's not just drag racing where nitromethane was used. It filtered down into circle track racing as well. Jeff Bertrand says, what is the modern day expense to make a pass at a top fuel car? If nothing goes boom, well, you're looking at probably $500 to $600 minimum in fuel. And you got to look at the engine cost. If nothing goes boom, you're still taking it apart between rounds. You've got 45 minutes to take that engine apart, replace, repair, whatever the case may be. And although it doesn't go boom, that doesn't mean parts don't get changed. You can knock the rod bearings out. You can knock the crank bearings out. You change them between rounds. The guys are a team, and they get through these things. You go to a top fuel pit during drag races, and in between rounds, you'll see just a bare block in an engine. As long as nothing went seriously wrong, they button it back up again with some new components and put it back on. Pistons come out, heads come off, blower comes off, exhaust, it's all gone. You have a bare block. They can rebuild that in 45 minutes. And it's an expensive outing. Top fuel racing is very expensive. That's one of the reasons you don't find that many cars in the category any longer. NHRA is hard-pressed to get 16-car fields anymore. Just doesn't happen. The days of the 64 funny cars that we used to have at Orange County Raceway are gone. There aren't 64 funny cars out there, let alone getting them all into one race. Now, there are different types of funny cars now. There was the Econo funny cars. There's SIFCA, the California Independent Funny Car Association. They run on an index. They're not heads up out the back door. They don't run on nitro. They run on methanol or alcohol. And it's gone. Yes, the independents, for the most part, in top fuel are gone. Alcohol is a different class. You've got funny cars, double B funny cars running in the alcohol class. Sean Bellemere, who graduated from junior dragsters to nostalgia racing, is, I believe, one of the current champs in the alcohol ranks of funny car. So there are different types of funny cars and dragsters. There's the alcohol class where they can run injection and nitro if they want, or they can run blown on alcohol. And even in a fuel that we run in nostalgia racing, it's the same combination. Nitro with injection, blown on alcohol or methanol. And they run it. So there's different types of fuels. Nitro is probably the one that creates the most. Now, according to Gene Adams, if you consider high-octane racing gasoline as a baseline fuel, replacing it with methanol, the best alcohol fuel, is worth 5 to 10% in power gain. But 80 to 90% nitro is worth 2 or 3 times that much power. What's the secret? Well, nitromethane carries its own oxygen, so it needs much less atmospheric oxygen to burn. Theoretically, the ideal stoichiometric ratio is 14.7. But methanol, which also carries oxygen, has a 6.4. But with 100% nitro, the ratio is 1.7 to 1. Because the displacement of the engine cylinder is fixed. This means assuming 100% volumetric pressure efficiency, 8.7 times more nitromethane than gasoline can be burned during one combustion cycle. And this is from the guys at Hot Rod magazine. Now, on paper, gasoline's about 4 times more heating value than nitromethane, at least 19,000 BTU, and just 4,000 BTU for nitro, but that doesn't take into account fuel efficiency. Good morning, Fast Eddie. How are you doing this morning? So there's a lot of information on Top Fuel. I suggest you read about it. Hot Rod Magazine online's got it, because Hot Rod Magazine just isn't out there anymore, except online, I believe. But a lot of magazines have gone away too, so online it is. Wikipedia, great information for you on nitromethane. And I'll tell you what, I love nitro racing. I really do. I love the sound. I love the feeling as they go by on the drag strip. But I'd still love door slammers, just like you, Jeff. Hey, I'm Hot Rod Bob. You've got gas and mixed with nitro this morning. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, don't forget our sponsors, the people that help bring gas to you, like Service Tech, all the equipment you need for the garage. We're going to do a garage tour at Service Tech, hopefully next week. They got some great stuff going on. Hopefully we'll see them. I'm Randy Cardoon, my good friend and partner for Gas and Two Tired Guys Productions. Don't forget, Two Tired Guys, subscribe. We're on YouTube. You can get all the latest talking about cars and gas on YouTube. Now, Two Tired Guys has the 1-hour edition of Gas, and it also has the special interviews with celebrities and people of note you want to watch talking about cars. You can listen to it on radio.com, and then you can see the videos come to life for you on YouTube. Two Tired Guys Productions. Take care, folks. I'm Hot Rod Bob. You've got gas. Brought to you by Service Tech, BUA, Beach Underwriting Associates, Moon Eyes, Irwindale Drag Strip, Irwindale Speedway, and Tucker Tire. And don't forget, Valley Head Service. Take care, folks. You have a great day. Randy Cardoon saying a new Talking About Cars on the Two Tired Guys channel will come out tomorrow morning. Oh, it's coming out. Join us on Two Tired Guys tomorrow morning for the newest edition of Talking About Cars. I'm Hot Rod Bob, along with Randy Cardoon here. And we're planning on, Randy, take notes, we're planning on a GAAS evening edition next Tuesday night. So join us next Tuesday night. We'll let you know. You get to be part of the audience on a special Zoom video edition of GAAS, the Great American Auto Scene since 1990. Your source for information and laughs. I'm Hot Rod Bob. You have GAAS, the morning edition. Take care, folks. Uh-oh, Randy is doing something. He's writing. What is he writing? I don't know. He's doing wrong, so he's not writing. Take care, folks. I'm Hot Rod Bob, along with Randy Cardoon. You have a great day and weekend.